Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Work Is You. It's Wednesday, but it's The Work Is You Thursday. Thank you so much for being here today with me. Um, it's been a crazy May, okay? How about that? It's been a crazy May. And so I am so excited that you guys are here to tune into today's lesson, which is about healthy boundaries. And I'm going to get right to it because I don't want to belabor the point any longer than it already has been. Look, full transparency. Okay. I was supposed to do this last week. I had a horrible toothache. The holiday came up. I said, I'm going to do it on Tuesday. Tuesday came and I said, yeah, I'm not doing it. I said, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And so here I am today on the last Wednesday, the last day of May to bring you the Work Is You Thursday workshop. And today's topic is healthy boundaries. So thank you everyone who is tuned in, who is here watching right now, virtually everywhere. I appreciate you. Make sure you like and share this with someone else because today we're going to be talking about healthy boundaries. And I think it's very important that we all understand what healthy boundaries is. And in this session, we're really focusing on the boundaries for us, right? So the boundaries for self, because the work is you. So you really have to learn how to identify those boundaries. So I'm going to get right to it. Let's do it. Let's get right to it. Oh, they got so many different new things here. So let's get right to it. Here we go. So the Work Is You Thursday. I am your girl, Smart Video Girl. And I am a coach and I'm an author. I'm an authenticity coach. I am a graphic designer. I'm all things visual. I am a creative and influential visionary who uh, who shows up authentically and empowers others to think and live their best lives. I'm also a mother of two, so I've had a very long day already. Okay. I'm also the founder and owner of Only Greatness Media Production, which I started in 2013 after I fell in love with being able to hear people's stories, and then wanting to show that to the world in the form of visual arts. I'm also the creator of Be Earth You, which is a lifestyle brand that encourages people to live their authentic self. Okay. I'm also author and coach of Do the Work, Keep the Faith, which is a coaching program and a book that I am working on. I'm super Another transparent moment. I've been working really hard on this book. And so I'm really excited that I will be able to bring it to you guys very soon. Okay. Makes my heart so happy. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It just makes my heart happy. All right, so let's get right to it. Let's get right to it. Today's topic is healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries. What are boundaries? Okay, we know what physical boundaries are. We see boundaries. You have a door, you have a window. These are boundaries, right? They keep things in and out. Um, of your space. There's boundaries, there's limits on how much money you can spend in your account. Like there's a whole many different boundaries. But today we're talking about healthy personal boundaries as they relate to you, your person, and how you operate. And I think it's important that we indicate healthy boundaries because healthy boundaries and we'll get into that, because I really don't want to well, I want to skip ahead. Like this topic is so broad. I can go this so many different ways, but I really wanted to make sure that I give you this message about setting boundaries and healthy boundaries in a very uh succinct way. So, boundaries are things that can be a physical boundary. You can have mental and emotional boundaries, and you can have personal property boundaries. Okay, and so what those are, in essence, are physical boundaries are deal with your person, your how you want people to touch you, if you want people to touch you, who you want to come into your house, who you don't want to come into your house, like that type of thing. The physical, it has to do with your physical being, who you allow to touch your hair. Those are boundaries. Okay. Who you allow into your space. Mental and emotional boundaries are to deal with how you allow people to treat you, how you allow people to speak to you, how you allow people to address you, um, and those are your mental and emotional type of boundaries. And then your personal property boundaries are, the things that you have that are quote unquote yours, and how you allow people to interact with them. Okay. Or, your space, like, you can't come in my room, my car, my money, things of that sort. So those are the type of boundaries that we're talking about today here on this show, on this program, when we're talking about healthy boundaries and how we set these boundaries. And I really wanted to break them down in this sense because there are different levels to setting boundaries. And so you may be good at setting physical boundaries, but you are not good at setting mental and emotional boundaries, which are very important, I think, are very, very important. And I think they're probably more important than physical boundaries because that's what's really inside of you. So if somebody is violating your mental and emotional boundaries, then they really have gotten deep inside of you. So we're going to talk about today how you set healthy mental and emotional boundaries, and then personal property boundaries. Like, do you have boundaries? And they go for yourself as well. They could these you can set boundaries for yourself. So they don't always necessarily have to apply to someone else, especially when you talk about personal property boundaries. Some people need to set boundaries on their money and how they spend money and what they do with their money. And so those are some personal property boundaries that we're going to learn about today on how to set healthy boundaries. Okay. All right. So, okay. Healthy boundaries protect your peace. Okay. I want to be clear with that. Healthy boundaries protect your peace. They are about self love and not control. Let me say that again for the people in the back, the way, way back. Healthy boundaries are to protect your peace. They are not about I'm sorry. Yeah, they are about self love, not control. You do not set boundaries to tell other people what to do. I'm going to let you see my face. You do not set boundaries so that you can tell people what to do. You set boundaries so that you can maintain peace within yourself. Okay. All right. So it is be very clear when you're setting boundaries what it is that you're doing. And this goes for all relationships again. Okay, you can set boundaries in the workplace. You can set boundaries in your home. You can set boundaries in your romantic relationships, in your platonic relationships. You again, all relationships, any type of interaction that you have with another being, your children, your parents, you can set boundaries. And again, they are to protect your peace. They're about love of self and not controlling others' behaviors, because you cannot control other people's behaviors. Just want to say that again, okay? All right. So I want to be very clear because it can get a little sticky when we're talking about setting boundaries. All right. So, why set boundaries? Why do we set boundaries? Why do we set boundaries? We set boundaries. A lack of boundaries can cause discomfort for you. You can feel uneasy. You can become anxious. You can it can create anxiety, which is fear if you don't have healthy boundaries, and it can also create resentment. Okay, they can cause resentments. Okay, these are some of the biggest issues surrounding boundaries that, if not addressed properly, they will leave you in a state that is not healthy. Okay, so you have to be very cognizant when you are understanding why it's important to set boundaries. You don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't never want to be in a situation where you yourself, and this is coming from an authenticity coach, okay, that you yourself are not able to be yourself, okay, because you have not set a boundaries that allow you to feel comfortable in with who you are, okay. You don't want to go beyond what you're comfortable doing and then therefore creating resentment towards people that you may be in relationship with because you failed to create boundaries, okay. And so again, boundaries are about keeping your peace. It's about self-love. So if you are able to love yourself enough, then you are able to set these healthy boundaries that will cause you to feel comfortable in your skin, feel comfortable when you go places, knowing that you have set limits on what you will and will not accept. Okay. And again, this is these are um why we set boundaries, because if we don't, lack of boundaries can cause again discomfort, resentment, and anxiety, amongst other things. Okay, but these are some of the key points that I wanted to bring up. Okay, and here's a quote from J.S. Wolf, who said, "Those who get angry when you set a boundary are the ones you need to set boundaries for." Amen. 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 I'm going to say it again. Amen. This one is very important, because if you are setting a boundary, again, boundaries are for your peace. It's about self love. So if you're setting a boundary and someone gets angry at a boundary that you set, that's definitely somebody that you need to set a boundary, because they have no limit to what they will or feel that they can do to or for you. Okay. All right. And then you cannot be yourself because you are at the um you are at the onus of them. You basically do what makes them comfortable. So there's no compromise there. It's more like you just concede and let them have their way. And that is very unhealthy in any relationship. And that goes for kids as well. Okay. So this goes for kids as well. If your kids get angry when you set a boundary, guess what? Those are the little people that you need to set boundaries for. It goes for your parents. It goes for loved ones. So this is very important, to pay attention to. If you start to set boundaries and people get upset or angry or don't understand, then those are definitely the people that you need to set boundaries for, because they don't see the value in respecting the boundary that you set, which is very, very, very important as well. Very important. Okay. All right. So issues with setting boundaries. So this one I'm gonna spend a little time here. Why some of us have a hard time setting boundaries. Now this one is definitely one that you want to take notes on, because a lot of times we don't set boundaries because we have not been taught how to set boundaries. Um, as a child, you may have been told that you need to um, hug everyone that you come into contact with. Hug all your parents. Hug all the adults that you come into contact with. That you have to, um, outside of saying hello, being polite and having manners, that you have to do things that make you uncomfortable. Being hugged or giving handshakes or what, or letting someone kiss you. These are things that we may have been taught as a kid, and as an adult, we now do not know how to set boundaries because uh, these are the way that we've been conditioned. So some of the reasons why some of us have a hard time setting boundaries is because we don't want to offend others. Okay. We don't want to offend others. We don't want to tell someone that, I need 5 feet. I need you to, I, I need 5 feet. And especially now with like COVID, since we've been through the pandemic, there is a lot of people who have set boundaries, personal boundaries for their own sanity, for their own peace, right? And so some of us don't want to offend others in in setting boundaries that some people may not understand. But again, go back to the quote. If I'll go back to the quote that said, those who get angry when you set a boundary are the ones you need to set the boundary for. So if you are setting a healthy boundary, then whether it offends someone else or not is not necessarily your concern. Okay. Another reason is we don't know how. We don't know how. We don't know what boundaries look like. In open we've been living an open life where we just let any and everything come into our circumstance and situation, and we have never been good at setting healthy boundaries. We have no idea what that looks like. We have family who run over us. We have work who takes advantage of us. We have friends who take advantage of us, and we have not learned how to set healthy boundaries. And that goes as far as being able to have self discipline with ourselves to do certain things. Okay. We just don't know what that looks like. And that kind of goes with a poor self image, because if you don't see yourself as someone worthy of being respected, or see yourself as worthy of having the respect of others, for people to actually say, look, this is what I need, this is what I deserve, this is what I like, this is how I like to be treated, then this may be because you yourself do not see yourself as someone who is worthy of the respect that you are looking for. Okay. So, a healthy boundary, these are some of the issues that some of us have with setting boundaries. Some people don't want to be seen as selfish or difficult. And I know I can raise my hand for that, because when you set a boundary, again, we're talking about boundaries. They're about protecting your peace. It's about self love. And when you start talking about your peace and self love, people may see or interpret that as you being selfish. And at the end of the day, again, if someone doesn't respect you, because there's a mutual respect, if you're setting boundaries and you want people to honor those boundaries, it's reciprocal. So you also have to be able to do that for other people. So it is not selfish to want to be treated a certain way, especially if you understand and then have that same mutual respect to offer that to someone else. Okay, so don't do it. Don't be afraid to set boundaries for yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't let someone tell you that you're being selfish, because you're expressing to them how you want to be treated. And we're going to get to that more, because it is too in how you communicate your boundaries that really can shift the mindset of the person who's receiving this boundary. Okay. And another fear is you don't want to lose friends. You don't want to ruin relationships. You feel like people, if you start setting boundaries, and people are not going to want to come around you no more. Guess what? If you're setting a boundary and people don't want to come around you, then that means they don't want to see you happy. They don't want to see you in a space where you're healthy and happy and operating at your best self. So guess what? They can go. Peace. Peace. Because that's a healthy boundary. And you have to protect what? Your peace. You have to protect your peace. Okay. All right. So Another quote: the more you value yourself, the healthier your boundaries are. Thank you, Lorraine. I love that. I love that quote. I think that this quote is um, speaks very true to the work that I do as an authenticity coach. Excuse me. As an authenticity coach, because the more you value yourself, the healthier your boundaries will be. The more that you're able to communicate your boundaries in a very healthy way as well. Okay. So, self-love is important. Self-image, your how you see yourself is important. And the more that you see the value in yourself, the healthier that you can set your boundaries. And again, I can attest to this as well, because just being in relationships have taught me what it is that I need for myself, and knowing what I deserve, I have been able to communicate better what my boundaries are, and then setting them in a way that is very loving for all parties involved. So, yeah, I love this quote. Thank you very much, Lorraine. I had to take a pause for the calls. All right. So, this is a good one. So, in my coaching program, I do talk about labels are limitations. And a lot of times we operate based on labels. So if you are a mother, for instance, and I can speak to being a mother because I'm a mother of two. So if you are a mother, you are quote unquote expected to do certain things. You are expected to take care of your kids. You're expected to wipe stinky diapers. You're expected to be the, whatever the case may be, because there's different people see things in different ways. But there's limitations to that label. And I'm offering this: just because you are someone's blank, and I'll let you fill in the blank, does not mean you have to do anything. And this kind of goes to a quote that or just a sentiment that I have when you're dealing with family. Sometimes people expect family to do certain things, like, oh, well, that's your such and such, they should do that. That's your mother, she should. Or that's your father, she should. That's your sister, she should. No one has to do anything. Okay. And just because you have the label as a brother, sister, mother, teacher, friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, does not mean that you have to do anything. And therefore, um, it goes both ways. You have to not expect it. Okay. Just because someone is something doesn't mean that you expect them to do it. And just because you are someone does not mean that you have to do what quote unquote society says that role is. You set the limitation, you set the boundary for what it is that you will do because of who you are, not because of a label that you or a role that you may have. Okay. Because we have so many different roles. Like I said, I just gave you about 4 or 5 at the beginning of this lesson about what I do. If I was limited to one of those roles, then I may not have room in space to do something else. But because I am me authentically, my limitations are not my boundaries, and how I operate don't necessarily fit into the roles that may be typical for someone else. And that is the beauty of being authentic. That's the beauty of understanding yourself, so that you don't fall into the trap of limitations, of labels. Okay. But you operate from a place of authenticity, where you know who you are, you know what you require, what you desire, what makes you feel good. And therefore, you can operate and you can create your own reality, your own situation. You can create your own system of things that work for you, including boundaries. Yes. You know, you talk about boundaries for work. Just because I'm an entrepreneur doesn't mean that I work hard. I'm just going to say that again. This may be my perception of it. Okay. But just because I am certain things doesn't mean that I have to, that There's automatically there's because I set limits. I set boundaries on how I operate my business as an entrepreneur. There's certain things that I will and will not do as an entrepreneur in my business, and those are boundaries that I set. Professional boundaries. That's another one. I did not list that, but professional boundaries. All right. Okay, so just because, and you can fill this in, just because you are somebody's blank does not mean that you have to do anything. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. So how do we set boundaries? This is begin to the how when we're going to get to the good part, Crystal. When we're going to get to the good parts of my video, girl, how do I actually set a boundary? Oh, you asking me a question? Well, this is how you set boundaries, okay? First, what you need to do is identify what you need to feel secure, okay? You need to identify what you need to feel secure, and then you need to communicate your boundaries. I left it pretty simple like this because at the end of the day, the first part, they both are very heavy as far as what it requires. But really, it's this two steps. You identify what it is that you need to feel secure, and then you communicate that. And sometimes you don't have to communicate. Let me be clear, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But you identify what you need to feel secure. What are your needs? And the only way that you're going to be able to really identify what it is that you need to feel secure is to have a clear understanding of who you are. You have to know yourself. You have to have a level of self love, a positive self image of who you are. You have to be able to really examine what you've been through, how it has made you feel, and what you need in order to move forward to continue to feel secure. So sometimes you can't set a boundary until you've been through something where you've been hurt, okay? Because you don't know that it's causing you pain or it's causing you to feel afraid or feel resentments. Okay, so until you've experienced some things, you can't really set a boundary. But once you have experienced some things, then you have to identify what it is that makes you feel secure. And one of the first part of my book, I talk about awareness because that is really what this is about. It's about becoming aware of how you feel. What are your feelings? What are feelings come up when things happen? Okay, um, if you have experienced trauma, emotional trauma, then you know what's going to trigger you, what's going to make you feel uncomfortable in a situation. Okay. If you have experienced physical trauma, you know you may need space. You may need to be able to say, look, I can't have anyone in my space because you feel there's some trauma that you have experienced that's causing you to not feel secure. And it's really best protecting your peace, right? So, and we don't want to operate from fear. So you don't want to put yourself in a bubble. Let me be clear, okay? You want, but you do want to be able to identify what it is and then communicate. Okay, and the communication really is the part that really helps you to be secure in the boundary. If you can speak it, then you have developed a sense of self that says it is okay for me to set this boundary. Okay, you don't have to feel afraid, you don't have to feel scared about some of the things that we talked about before, about disappointing others or about being difficult or feeling selfish, because you understand that you are worthy of the respect. You are worthy of the space. You are worthy of the sense of peace that comes from setting this boundary. And sometimes a boundary can be temporary. You may need temporary space in order to gain up the confidence to continue forward. So it may be a temporary boundary that you set up. All boundaries don't have to be set in stone. It doesn't have to be a permanent boundary, but it is a boundary that it is needed to allow you to feel secure. Okay. All right. So um, identify what you need to feel secure and then communicate that. Okay. All right. So, step one, identify. Take some time and ask yourself, what am I telling myself that allows me to stay or continue in a situation where I feel uncomfortable? Okay. What am I telling myself that allows me to stay in a situation, um, to stay or to continue in a situation where you feel uncomfortable? Okay. This is the first step in identifying where you may need to set boundaries, because sometimes you don't know that you need to set a boundary. You don't even understand, but you understand that you feel uncomfortable. You understand that there there is resentment that has been created in a situation. You understand that you feel anxious whenever you walk into a room. You feel anxious when someone calls you, it could be someone calls you. It can be, who, and because this person is violates you, violates your space, violates your time, violates whatever. Why do you stay in the situation? Why do you stay in the situation where it continues to make you feel uncomfortable? And why is it making you uncomfortable? And once you have identified that, then you can now create a statement that says, well, a statement that creates a resolve to that. So now, okay, I no longer will accept being disrespected. I no longer will tolerate being disregarded. I no longer will tolerate um, people coming by my house unannounced. I will no longer tolerate. Okay, but you have to identify it. And so, this question here of what am I telling myself that allows me to stay and continue in a situation where I feel uncomfortable is a good question to start to help you identify some areas in your life where you may not have peace, where you may need to set a boundary. Okay? Because we don't want to do that. We don't want to be in a place where we're not where we don't feel comfortable. Bottom line. Bottom line. Setting boundaries is an act of being authentic, and that is me. That is a quote by I. Because setting boundaries is an act of being authentic. That is you living in your authentic self. That is you saying, I know me. I am operating, and this is how I am, and I need this in order to be me. And me is comfortable, me is secure, me is happy, me is me likes to have fun. Me loves music, me loves to dance in the streets. And so I'm setting boundaries, I'm setting up parameters that allow me to be me freely. Yes. Amen. I love that. Okay. All right. And step 2 is communicate. Own your boundaries. Use I statements because you are not a victim. Okay, let's be clear. Again, we're not. When I started this, I said boundaries are not about control. Okay. Also, boundaries are not to make others feel bad. Okay. Boundaries are for you. Really, understand this. Boundaries are to protect your peace. They are for you. They are not for other people. Okay. They are for you. Just like forgiveness is for you. It's so many different things I can talk about it. But when you understand that boundaries are not necessarily, you have to communicate them to other people, but they're not for other people. They're for you. They're for your peace. They're for you to be able to feel and be your authentic self. Okay. It's part of the makeup of who you are, to have this boundary. So you own your boundaries, okay? All right. You are not a victim, okay? You don't, and we'll get into how you communicate these in a healthy way. Um, and then you keep it short and simple. There's no need to justify your point. You don't need to say, well, I no longer will this because, at one time. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary for you to justify your position for setting a boundary. Again, those who understand will understand, and they will love you regardless, and they will respect your boundary. And those who get upset, well, this is the reason why I have the boundary. And if you can't respect it, then guess what? You are no longer part of my circle. And that's okay as well. Again, it's for your peace. It's not for them. If they get offended, then they have to check themselves and understand why, and trying to figure out why they're offended by a boundary that you set for your peace. I'm just saying. Okay? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm going to keep saying that. Cause I'm just saying. Because that's a whole word. Okay? All right. So, oh my gosh, this is really going by quite fast. I didn't realize we've been going for a while. Um, so there are some ways that you can communicate your boundaries in a very kind and loving way. So again, if you are afraid, if you have concerns, I should say, around being offensive, or you have concerns about ruining relationships, there is a way that you can set a boundary. Then again, owning your boundary, still keeping it short and simple, to the point, no need to justify, and not coming from a place of victimhood, like someone did something to you, but owning it. You can keep it focused on your feelings and needs. Okay, that's where you say, I know, I will, I would like, I no longer. It's all about what it is that you want. It may sound selfish. It is definitely not egotistical. Okay. But it definitely may sound to someone offensive if you're talking about you. But I would encourage the person who is hearing this and saying, well, why you think about, are you setting boundaries for yourself? Because if someone is setting boundaries, healthy boundaries, and you are offended, think about what boundaries you have for yourself. Do you even have boundaries for yourself? And then if you don't, you may need to set some as well, because so you can understand where the other person is coming from. Okay, but keep the focus on your feelings and needs. Okay, setting a boundary is about communicating what you need and expect. It may be important to gently. You don't have to. You don't have to justify. Okay, and you don't have to be aggressive with it. You can use a neutral tone when you are speaking. So pay attention to how you're saying it. Okay, when you are setting your boundary. So sometimes, especially if it's something where you may have built up resentment, or there's anger, or if you have big um, feelings around a situation, you don't necessarily want to just blurt out what your boundary is in that moment. So someone makes you feel some way, you know what? I no longer need you to, but so, because it becomes a hostile situation. Okay, so you don't want to use hostile language. You want to use a very neutral voice. You don't want to be sarcastic. You don't want to cuss. You don't want to yell. You don't want to you don't want to make it a defensive situation. Okay, you don't want to make it like I'm doing this in defense for what you did to me. Okay, because even if you're saying I, but you are coming at it from this place of I'm you did this, so I'm, because it'll come through. It'll still come through. So make sure you're using very neutral tone, and take some time to really evaluate. Again, that first question to ask yourself, what is it that's helping? What is it that I'm telling myself that allows me to stay in a situation and where I feel uncomfortable? If you really take the time to um, identify what that is, then it gives you time and space between whatever the event be that may cause you to have to set a boundary. Okay. So choose the right time. Take the time. Don't be impulsive. Take the time to really, uh, especially if it's contentious, especially if it may be an uneasy conversation. Ask the person if you can talk to them. Say, hey, I would like to talk to you. There's a few things that I have on my mind that I would like to share with you. And it is a sharing. It is complete sharing. And you, again, in the communicating of it, let them know that I no longer I feel you can I feel I no longer I appreciate their at this moving forward. I would like it's almost like you're expressing to someone, communicating to them what it is that you need to feel comfortable. Okay. And if they respect you, if you have a healthy relationship, if there's at least respect there, then they will hopefully hear you, and then they will be able to respect your boundary. Okay. Be direct. So you don't want to be wishy-washy. You don't want to be unsure. You be like, well, I don't know. Just be direct and say what it is that you need. Because again, remember, it's about your peace, and you are coming to it from a loving place. Okay, we're not, because you're not here to offend. You're not here to um, judge anyone. You're here to protect your peace. Okay. And that can be done very directly, you know, again. And then be specific. Ask for exactly what you want or need. Okay. Be very specific, because otherwise people will not know what it is that you want. And then you leave it up to their interpretation. And if you're not clear about what it is, then you leave room for to be a violation of the boundary, and they will let you know. Well, you didn't tell me that. So be clear, be specific, be direct. Okay. Choose a good time to talk. Don't do it when feelings are high. And then also to consider the other person's needs. Okay. So when we're talking about this, especially when you're talking about family. Okay. Um, we're protecting our peace, but we still want to consider the other person. Okay. Because we are not, um, again, this not being selfish. All right. And there is this a mutual respect. Okay. So, um, when you're communicating, it can be a dialogue. They can address you. Um, there can be some type of, maybe you may be open to compromise if it's a situation where you guys live together, or you do something, or you have a very intimate relationship where there may need to be some wiggle room in order to get what needs to be done. Okay. But what you should never do is concede your boundary. If there cannot be a fair compromise where you still feel comfortable, because you guys have dialogued and you have communicated about the needs that both people have, okay, then you know that if it's not that, then we're not just you're not going to what you should not do is address someone, communicate your need, communicate your boundary, but then they tell you, no, that's not going to work for me, and you be like, okay, and it was just a thought. That's not healthy boundary. That's not a healthy boundary. If you express your boundary, and someone says to me, I understand, maybe we can XYZ, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, then that is healthy dialogue. You can say, well, you know what, I agree with A and B, but F and G, we can't do that. That's just not going to work for me. You know, now you have created healthy dialogue as well. And it becomes a reciprocal relationship where both parties feel comfortable, because you don't want someone else to necessarily feel comfortable in dealing with you as well either. So, but again, protect your peace, and just know that um, healthy boundaries are about you protecting your peace. Okay. All right. Okay, boundary violations. Don't let them violate your boundaries. What do you do when your boundary is not honored? Oh my goodness. All right. The best thing you can do if your boundary is not honored is to walk away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's not. And it does depend on the relationship. I will say that you can't necessarily abandon your kids. But you can distance yourself. You create distance between you and that person. You still you still love them, because we love unconditionally, and that's what we're doing over here. We love it unconditionally. But what we do is we fall back. We don't engage with that person. We do not give that person our time and energy, because they have shown a lack of respect for you. Okay. They have shown uh, blatant disregard for what you have addressed, for who you are, for what it is that you need. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. Okay. Like the quote said, if you encounter somebody when you set a boundary and they get angry, that's the person that you definitely need to set a boundary for. And if they continue further with not honoring your boundary, then you just need to separate yourself from that person. Okay? That's the simplest thing I can say for that. Because what's going to happen is, if you do not separate yourself from them, they will continue to permanently cross the boundary. They have learned how to you have, again, the question, you have allowed them now at this point to disrespect you or disregard your needs at a higher level, because you have communicated it. Okay. Before communicating, they had no they had no boundary, they had no understanding. But what's communicated, if not honored still, then there is a blatant disregard for you as a being that they have shown, and that is in itself is unhealthy for your peace, because then there is nothing that they will not do. I believe that there's nothing that they will not do in order to, just because. And to be clear, okay, let me be clear, I'm not saying that this person is necessarily bad. It's just that they have not learned how to respect people's boundaries. They don't understand boundaries. They may not have any boundaries of their own, so they don't really understand them. And so, they have to, not to say that you can never they can never re-enter the gates of the boundary hood, but they would have to recognize that they have lost you, or that you no longer are in willing to be a you know dealing with them anymore, in order for them to understand that this person was serious about their boundary. And if I want to maintain a relationship with them in any form of fashion, then I will have to learn how to respect their boundaries. Some people will do that. Some people, but that's why it's important for you to stick to it, be firm, yet gentle and loving. Be firm but loving with your boundary. And if someone does not honor it, be willing, be ready to let that relationship go. And then they will either understand eventually that, oh, this person really did mean it when they said, don't come to my house unannounced. That's right. I said, do not come to my house unannounced. You need to call before you come. And then they will call before they come. They will start to respect your boundary if they honor you and respect you as a person. So that is very important. Okay. Oh my God. It is not healthy. It is not healthy. So the boundary is not healthy if you are demanding instead of offering. Mm, 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 mm. You cannot demand. You need to treat me like, no, no, no. No, they don't need to do anything. No one needs to do anything. It is not a healthy boundary if you are demanding and not offering. And when I say offering what it is, sharing what it is that you would like, because they don't have to do it. So if they don't respect it, again, you know what to do. You walk away, but you don't demand that they do it. You don't demand it, because the demand is going to create. It's going to create, above anything else, is going to create resistance in the person, because they are just like, well, you want to tell me what to do? You know what I'm saying? Even though it is you're being you, but then now you are telling them what to do. So how is that a healthy relationship? Because now you're telling them how to behave, and that's not what we're doing. When you set a healthy boundary, you are setting up, again, parameters for how you would like to be treated. That does not mean that people have to do it. It's just something that, this is just how you operate. So make sure you understand that. It's clear distinction when setting healthy boundaries. Okay. Another one is, if you feel guilty for setting it, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. Okay. Okay. Because it may feel like manipulation. That could be manipulation. If you set a boundary and you feel guilty for it, that could be you trying to manipulate the situation. All right. If you make others feel guilty for it, okay, it's not healthy. Well, I'm only doing this because you did this to me. I'm only setting this boundary up because you made me feel like that. That's not a healthy boundary. That's you're setting people up, and that's, you're basically guilt tripping people into um, respecting your boundary. That means they don't really respect you. They feel guilty. They feel ashamed. They feel bad. You know. Again, that's why you should always use language that where you own what the boundary is. You're not a victim, okay? You may have experienced some things. You know how those things make you feel. So therefore, now, in order to feel better, to feel more secure, this is what it is that you need and what you would like. But you don't put that on someone else as to why now you have this boundary. Okay. And the last one is, it's not healthy if you don't stick to your word. Mm. If you don't stick to your word, it's not healthy, because, like I said, you set a boundary and then you don't stick to it. This person now has learned ultimately that you have no boundaries, and they will continue to push the limits of disrespect, disregard for who you are as a person. And it does not always have to just be, it doesn't always have to be malicious, but it is a simple, it could be just a disregard. Sometimes people just don't pay attention. Sometimes people are just absent-minded. Okay, they're just absent-minded. And if you don't want to have to deal with their absent-mindedness, right, then you set a healthy boundary for yourself. Okay, and then you stick to it. Okay, so either they're going to become more mindful when dealing with you, at least, or they just won't deal with you anymore. But in order to protect your peace, so that you don't have to deal with their forgetfulness or their lack of mindfulness, then you set that boundary. Okay. Again, we're not telling them what to do. You need to pay attention to me. No. That's not, nope, 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 nope. I'm not demanding it. I'm just saying I need, okay? And that's what it is. All right. Healthy boundaries. That's what we have been talking about today. We've been talking about healthy boundaries. Um, and I just want to wrap this particular conversation up with a few reminders that don't be afraid to set healthy boundaries for yourself, okay? Because healthy boundaries are an act of self love, is an act of authenticity. That's what I that's what I truly believe, okay? And boundaries are not to offend others. Boundaries are not to control others. And if you set boundaries and you lose people, that's okay as well. That is okay as well. Okay? Because we don't want to we don't want to concede our position um, for relationships that are not healthy, where we are giving of ourselves to the point where we feel uncomfortable, that we cannot be our true selves. Okay? So I love this conversation. I definitely have more tips and tools on how to set those healthy boundaries, um, and what they actually look like and how you can communicate that with someone. So if you wanted to work with me and talk about healthy boundaries, because there's so many different things that I can address in your walk with to authenticity. Because again, setting healthy boundaries is about knowing who you are. You can't set healthy boundaries around around yourself if you don't know what it is that you need and what you want. So I do offer a one-on-one coaching program. The work is you. So if you are interested in that, you can send me an email at bookme@smartvideogirl.com, and I can set up a free consultation with you so we can get you started, figure out what your game plan is on how you can um, be your best self, how you can be authentic to you, okay? How you can live a life that is authentically yours, okay? And that is the Work Is You coaching program, one-on-one coaching program. And again, you can email me at bookme@smartvideogirl.com, or you can just visit the smartvideogirl.com website. What? Yes, it is up. You better go check it out. Run. Smartvideogirl.com is my website. You can check that out and you can see all of the services and things that I offer. I would really appreciate that. You can definitely go on over to smartvideogirl.com to see that. I am currently on a social media break, okay? And I'm okay with saying that because I'm authentic. And so if you really want to get in contact with me, it's going to be best that you email me at bookme@smartvideogirl.com. Do not send me a message on Instagram, YouTube, or any of those things. All right. Say hi. Hi. All right. That's my daughter there. She has violated my boundary. But she is okay. She has violated my boundary. Should I leave her alone? I don't think I can. I can't do that. See, this is where you have to use discretion when setting your boundaries. Okay. All right. And last but not least, I am wanted to share with you guys that I will have another speaking engagement coming up. That's right. I will be speaking at the Will of Wellness Retreat. July 18th, I'm sorry, July 28th through the 30th. I am one of the guest speakers there. I'll be facilitating a workshop on creating your authenticity statement. So make sure that you visit the Will of Wellness retreat.eventbrite.com link to get your to register for that event. It's going to be a powerful 3-day event. I'm super duper excited. Thank you to Dr. Kene Black for inviting me or allowing me to be a part of this great retreat. You do not want to miss this. It's going to be in person. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. You're going to get a chance to work with me in person to create your authenticity statement. So I look forward to that. So you can have your authenticity statement just like I have mine, which is I'm a creative and influential visionary who shows up authentically and empowers others to think and live their best lives. Okay. So make sure you check that out. I am so excited about what's ahead, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in to this. If you're looking at it live or if you're looking at it on the replay, make sure that you share this with someone who may need to set some boundaries. Okay, make sure you share this with them and let them know that it is okay. It is okay to set boundaries, and if they need to, they can contact me. These are the ways you can contact me. My phone number is 240-988-3967. You can email me at bookme@smartvideogirl.com, or you can go follow me on IG at smartvideogirl. That's right. I'm Smart Video Girl. Everywhere that I am, that's me. You will find me. And until next month, all right, I appreciate you all sincerely. I'm so grateful that I got through this workshop and I got it done. All right. And it was actually fun. It was seamless. And I want to thank God for just using me and allowing me to have this platform in order to share with other people the information and the downloads that He has given me. Amen. Okay. And with that being said, you guys enjoy this last day of May. All right. And I encourage you all to get you some Be Earth You material apparel, okay? So visit the Be Earth You website. That's beearthyou.com. And again, if you need anything, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at bookme@smartvideogirl.com. Until next week. Oh, no, until next month. Have a good day.
You are unique by design. Designed to be you. Renewed. Be Earth You. A lifestyle brand that promotes living authentic. Redesign your mind. And remember that there is only one you. Live authentically. Be Earth You. Visit www.beearthyou.com where everything happens for a reason and all things are working in your favor.